I've been in the antique business for 25 years and started off thinking I actually knew something. It turns out I knew absolutely nothing and had to relearn everything that I thought I knew. I've really changed speed. I've gone from a very general antiques business into specializing in Canadian folk art or folk art from the world, and also to the native indigenous material, all historic. So 18th and 19th century for the majority of it. The pipe in my case is from New Brunswick, done by the Maliseet people, and it is made out of what they call steatite, which is a form of vitrified clay, and is one of the finest and most complex carving efforts that the native people ever did. Very indicative of that area and nicknamed Mi'kmaq pipe. The vast majority of what we find in this area is found in the United States or Europe. Very seldom do we find it here in Canada. Canadians, how shall I say it, didn't really appreciate it. So a lot of it was bought up by foreign interests. Very evident in 18th and 19th century, where the British and French would come to North America and they would take home souvenirs. And those souvenirs ended up in every country but Canada. So that's sort of continued into the 20th century, and the American market has absorbed a lot of our very finest. And so where I find things is in the United States very often. Condition is very fine, you're right. It was made as a tourist item, if you call that, or proto-tourist. It was made probably on order for some military posting, likely in New Brunswick or somewhere, but by a British officer anyway, and his family, likely. Well, one of the other pieces is another pipe found in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, and it's made of wood, segmented with whatever you call it, pith wood, like alder or witch hazel, segmented stem, and it's absolutely a beautiful carving of a native person. It's not a caricature, it's not a joke, it's a very honest opinion of what that person really looked like. And it was probably done in about 1890. Unfortunately, I can't prove that, but it is actually well done as a European-style pipe rather than being indigenous. Looking around, I'm standing in my booth in the show. Looking around, I was mentored basically by a fellow who was in the folk art business, has long since passed away, and he loved folk art, and it wore off on me. And he spent his whole life basically doing that, and he learned from some of our very best. A fellow by the name of Henry Dobson, who was well known to the industry. He mentored this fellow, and that fellow mentored me. His name was Alan Clareman. I give him all the credit for my interest in this area. And he found a cast iron figure of a beaver some 20, 30 years ago. All of a sudden, 20 years later, he finds the actual mold or form of that same casting. I've never, ever seen that before or since. So that's one of my other special items in the booth. Thank you very much.